No, you've heard this too. If you've been in church at any amount of time, you've heard this too. Well, I'm leaving that church because I'm not being fed. Feed yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't go to church. Go to church and receive, but you can't subside on Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. You got to feed yourself every day in between.
And that's your responsibility.
It's your responsibility.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Bookish Introverts Podcast. Join host Amazon bestselling author Brett Nelson and avid reader Melanie Dyer as they dive in to review books they've read, then chat with the amazing authors behind them. Quiet minds, big bookshelves. You don't want to miss it.
Hey guys, it's Brett, and we are back. I have got Jessica here with me. The Lisa Harris book, is that the last one that you did? Or did we do one after that? I can't remember.
Was it Lisa Harris? It was
that suspense book. Okay. All right. So it's been a while since you've been here. So we're here today to talk about, what's the name of the book?
The name is Shaped by the Waves.
By Christina Suzanne Nelson. Hold that up and let people see it. So this is a Christian fiction book. For those of you that are listening instead of watching, it's got sort of a real pretty green cover. There's some waves at the bottom and there's seagulls flying around. So it's a real pretty cover. I think she is published by Baker Publishing. If you read a lot of Christian fiction, you may recognize her. So that's what we're here to do today. So what have you been doing since the last time I talked to you?
Oh, my goodness.
Of course, we've talked to a little bit, but just not about the podcast or books. So what have you been doing?
Mostly.
Yeah.
My husband and I did get to go to Six Flags over Texas several weeks ago.
Oh, my gosh. Was it burning up hot?
Yeah. It probably wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like, we really have had a mild summer so far.
June was very mild for us compared to what it usually is.
What it could be.
Yeah.
So it was June when we went, and so it was hot, but it wasn't that bad. It was manageable.
Did you ride any rides?
Yes.
Why'd you ride?
Like,
are you like a roller coaster ride, or are you
we like the thrill ride? My husband and I.
Yeah.
We did. I think Batman. They have like themed like Batman, Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Like one of the Batman villains. I actually think that was one we didn't get to ride, but there was one that was like Aquaman, right? And I think that was a new one since the last time I had been there.
I haven't been there in years.
And it was like a water ride, but you just go up and then you go. It's kind of like a U shape. And then you end up splashing in the water. But that one was fun.
Oh, okay.
So we enjoyed it. Yeah, we just kind of made it. It's kind of the way that theme park is set up. It's just one big circle.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then you come back around up to the.
Now, did you go to Dallas? The one in Texas?
Over Texas. Okay. In Arlington.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
We were just like up there one day, back the next. We found a Chinese buffet that we really enjoyed that night to eat dinner, and I think it was just titled Asian Buffet, which I've heard of those. This one was massive. Like, that was the biggest Asian buffet I've ever seen. Like,
really,
so many buffet tables with just such a huge variety of food, and we enjoyed that. And that was like, for it being a buffet, you would have to put your name in and wait for a table.
Really?
Because it was that popular, and it was just that. Like,
how close is it to Six Flags?
Oh, not far.
Oh, okay.
Not far, because we had a
so
hotel.
That could be a lot of the draw.
Yeah, we got a hotel not far from the park, and that wasn't that far from the park or the hotel. So we enjoyed that. It was a little getaway, just kind of up there one day, back the next. It was really quick.
My friend Christine and I were talking about the other day. I said, I would love to just get away for a few days, but I just haven't had time. Yeah. It's like this whole summer is gone, and we work in a university. So by the time August gets here, you're just...
It's going really fast. We were talking about how our summer hours will be coming to an end very shortly.
Yeah, in like, 2 weeks, something like
2 or 3 weeks left, I think. Yeah. And then our summer hours will be over. We'll be gearing up for the fall.
Up for the fall, so yeah.
It's gone by really fast.
Have you read anything since the last time you were on the podcast?
Just the book we're going to talk about today.
Oh, okay. All right, well.
No,
summer's busy, and downloads for the podcast have been a lot lower than they have been in the past. But I think it's just because it's summer. People are out traveling and going on vacation, and so But a friend of mine called me. She was like, I'm so sorry. I haven't listened to like your last 4 or 5 episodes yet. I'm like, that's a good thing about a podcast. They're there when you're ready for them.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going anywhere.
They're not going anywhere.
Splurge anytime you want.
Yeah. All right. Tell us a little bit. Christina Suzanne Nelson is the author of the book, and she is no relation to me. I'm a Nelson. She's a Nelson.
Yeah.
I've never met her. So tell us a little bit about her.
Okay, so this is just the little bio that the book gives. It says she's an inspirational speaker, an award-winning author of If We Make It Home, Swimming in the Deep End, More Than We Remember, and The Way It Should Be. She writes and speaks about hope after dysfunction. Christina is over the top about her passions, including the stories created somewhere in the twists and turns of her less than focused brain. When she's not writing, she's working with the Every Child Initiative, chasing escaped steers, reading, breathing in the sweet smell of her horse, hiking with her dog, or enjoying her just as crazy family. And it talks about her. You can visit her website.
Oh, okay.
At ChristinaSuzanneNelson.com for more information. So.
All right. Well, what'd you think of the book, just in general?
I enjoyed it.
Did you like it?
I thought that it was a good read, and I kind of liked the way that she kind of broke it up into like different. She had like several different characters that she put, or kind of storylines, I guess. There was like 3 different kind of storylines within it.
Yes. And I'm not always a fan of that.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't dual timeline. So that's not what it was. But there were 3 different storylines. You had one storyline for Cassie, who is the main character. One storyline for Nora, who is, I don't really consider her a main character.
Side character.
Yeah, kind of like a secondary character. And then the third storyline, there was this manuscript in there. And we'll get into it. We're going to do our best not to give major spoilers in here. It's hard to talk about a book and not give spoilers, but we're going to do our best not to give major spoilers. But what did you think about the character Nora? Did you feel like her character wasn't really even necessary, or was it just me?
Okay, I kind of agree with that.
Okay,
it's kind of like, well, where are we going with this? And and other than the fact that we do find out that they know each other, they went to high school together.
Yeah.
And so there is a small connection, and they do have interactions with one another, like in real time. But that's few and far between.
Yeah.
And it did kind of just feel like, why are we even talking about her when I really wanted to get back to Cassie, which was the main character.
Yeah. I was wondering if that was just me or not, because I'm not usually one to like pull out the negative things about people's books. As an author, I don't like it when people do that to me. But yeah, I kept waiting for,
it to be relevant in some way.
Yeah, for it to be relevant in some way. And then her point of view was usually just very quick. Half a page, you know?
Yeah, we were just getting little short bursts of it.
Yeah.
And then I was always kind of ready to can we get back to the other storyline? I think I was always ready to get back to that. And I was very intrigued by the manuscript. I was intrigued by that story.
I wasn't at first.
Story of it.
In fact, as I was taking notes, as I read, for the first little bit of it, I was like, we're not even going to talk about the manuscript on the podcast. We're just going to tell people there's a manuscript, and then but then I knew that was going to how it was going to work. But you really, to me, it didn't really get interesting until about halfway through the book.
Okay.
So anyway, so we've got Cassie. Where did she live? Like, was it Seattle or
California? I believe.
Oh, was it California? She lived in California. She's got a young daughter. She was raised by her aunt in this little town, Gulls Bay, Oregon, and she gets a call while she's still living in California from her aunt's best friend that her Aunt Shasta has fallen. She's okay, but she hasn't been well for the last few months, and she's been diagnosed with a mild stroke and Parkinson's disease.
Yeah.
So Cassie has tons of student loans. She's barely scraping by. And talking to her aunt's best friend, she realized, okay, I really need to go and check on my aunt, see what's going on. She gets down there, and this is another thing that I kind of thought was interesting. I wanted to see what you thought about it. She gets down there. When she goes in, she does notice that Aunt Shasta's apartment is a little bit disheveled. It's a little bit disorganized, which is not usual for her aunt. But like her aunt owns, was it a coffee shop bakery?
Yeah, a coffee shop.
And when Cassie got there, her aunt was still working in the coffee shop. Am I right?
I think she had tried. I think she was trying to stay as normal as possible. I think she was trying to still work in there. I think her friend, is it Aubrey?
Yes.
The friend, I think she was really kind of trying to help her as best she could. And I think she had taken on maybe more responsibilities at the coffee shop, trying to keep it running. They had hired a man that we'll talk about in a little bit, that Cassie's about to meet, an intriguing person and have a relationship with at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you kind of figure out pretty early on that Cassie is young. She has a young daughter that she had out of wedlock. She's not married. She never married the father. The father's not in the picture. Just somebody that basically she hooked up with in college and then got pregnant. Oops.
This is what happens when you hook up in college.
Yeah.
You get stuck.
And then he didn't want anything to do with the child. And so she was on raising a single parent at that point, trying to raise a child.
And she's a great mom. She doesn't resent having the child. She's a great mom.
No, she can see the blessing that Lark is. And if anything, I think she thinks she doesn't deserve to have a blessing in her life, because you kind of find out that she kind of ran away from her problems, so to speak. I don't remember exactly. Well, I guess maybe that's okay. Because I think that's what it was. Her getting pregnant, she felt ashamed, and she felt like her aunt wouldn't understand. And because it's this small community in Goals Bay where everybody knows everybody else. It's like a village, and everybody is helping. Like they're helping her aunt, because we find out that Shasta is her aunt. So, and you find out pretty early on that, that's not her biological mother, but Shasta raised her as her own. But so the community of Goals Bay has kind of helped raise Cassie from the time that she came to live with Shasta, since she was, 2 years old or whatever it was.
Yeah.
She's pretty young. And so I think when Cassie got pregnant out of wedlock, at a very young age, I think she felt ashamed, and she felt like they would be disappointed in her. They wouldn't understand. So she kind of ran away. Yeah. And I think she ended up in California. Is that what? When
something like that happens, that's the kind of thing you would feel if you're born in a family of faith. Was she, I can't remember, was she born in a family of faith?
Cassie?
Yeah.
I believe.
It's been 3 weeks since I've read
this. I know, and it's been a week or so for me. But I believe that Shasta, that they were Christians. They went to church, because it talks about her going back to church when she does move back to Oregon from California to take care of Shasta. It talks about her I haven't gone to that church in a long time.
Yeah.
I
that's
faced
right.
those people in a long time, and I'm sure they think that I'm this horrible sinner and all this. So yes, I believe it was.
And in a small town, I guarantee you there were people that thought that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the people that were her and Shasta's kind of adopted family, so to speak. I think they were all, I would say they were all churchgoers, all Christian.
Yeah. So she gets home, and in the coffee shop. Okay. So for me, she gets there, and her aunt was sort of still working in the shop, even though she was struggling some. Then all of a sudden, Cassie gets there, and Aunt Shasta is just like,
yes.
For me, I thought that happened really quick. Now, I'm not familiar with Parkinson's disease and all that. And the author did allude to the fact that it almost felt to Cassie that her aunt was just hanging on long enough for her to get there. But for me, it felt like she was still doing what she needed to do. And then all of a sudden, Cassie gets there, and she's just like, her brain's mush, and she can't do anything.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, it kind of explains it a little bit, that she was diagnosed with Parkinson's years prior to that.
Yes.
Shasta never told her that. So she kept it a secret from her.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many years Cassie has been gone. Several years, maybe 4 or 5 years or whatever. However old the daughter is.
Yeah.
And so for a couple of years, she's been diagnosed with this. She has the early stages of it were several years ago. Now she's in the advanced stages, and Cassie's just now finding out about it.
Yeah.
And so,
but we also find out later on in the book that Aunt Shasta also has Lewy body dementia. which is a devastating diagnosis. That's what killed Robin Williams.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it causes like major hallucinations.
Oh, really?
So later on in the book, they did make mention that somewhere along the way they did find out that she has Lewy body dementia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
so a combination of that and that's right.
And with that diagnosis thrown in, then it started making sense. But for me, I just kept thinking, okay, it's just so weird that she wasn't this disabled before Cassie got there, and then all of a sudden,
I think Cassie didn't think that she was, but I think maybe she was more than what, obviously more than what she led on to Cassie.
Yeah.
But I think she had actually been struggling for a while, and I think like her friend Aubrey had really taken on a lot of more responsibilities at the coffee shop to try to help, because I don't think like Shasta just wasn't at the point of really being able to, because she was the owner of it, to really run it and everything.
And she did have a good team. Aubrey, Marshall.
And Shasta was in the hospital though when Cassie showed up. She was in the hospital.
Yes.
Yeah. So and then it's just, I think it's like almost right away Cassie's like, oh my gosh, she's in worse shape than I thought. I have to stay. I have to take care of her. She took care of me. It's my turn to take care of her. So I think it was almost immediate. Like
she didn't have to stop and think about it.
Yeah, she was going to leave her life behind.
Yes, because Aunt Shasta sort of saved Cassie from being put in foster care. Like if it hadn't been for Aunt Shasta taking her in, she would have been put in the foster care system. So she is very willing to step up because her aunt saved her from that. So she goes to the hospital, she talks to the doctors, and that's where she finds out that her aunt actually has Lewy body dementia. It requires round-the-clock care. And so that's when she decides to move back to Gulls Bay and take care of her aunt. They finally get Aunt Shasta home, and when they get there, there was a thick bundle of rubber-banded papers with a note that says, "Read my story with an open mind and an open heart," but she has no idea who it's from. The manuscript sort of comes in piecemeal, in pieces throughout, like she didn't get the whole thing at once. Yeah. So she starts reading this manuscript. So for me, wasn't that interested in the manuscript at first, because it's talking about people that aren't really, at this point, aren't relevant to the story.
Anything. It's just a story that somebody made up, as far as you know, at the beginning of it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I wasn't exactly sure where this whole manuscript was going. So this is the point where Cassie and Nora meet. Cassie, she sort of starts working some in the coffee shop, and Nora comes in, and we find out that Nora and Cassie used to be friends, or they used to go to school together. I don't know that they were friends. I think Nora was Cassie was sort of from the wrong side of the track, so to speak. I think Nora was kind of uppity a little bit. Cassie was more down to earth. Yeah. So we find out that Nora married the man that Cassie used to be in love with. Or had a crush on. Yeah. They're nice to each other, but, Nora kind of is like, hey, you got a little girl, you ought to get her in this certain preschool, blah, blah, blah. Cassie brings Shasta home from the hospital. She continues reading the manuscript, and then Shasta comes into the room. She pulls Cassie close and says, "Watch out for that woman. She's a spy."
Yeah.
Just totally random.
Yeah, because it's a lady that frequents the coffee shop. There's like a booth that she always goes to, and she's always on her laptop,
on her
It's
computer,
like free Wi-Fi, or she's on her, and she's just very kind of stoic, very quiet, and just always like on that laptop or whatever, and doesn't really converse with anybody, and so it seems a little suspicious or mysterious,
especially when you have Lewy body dementia. So
so she's like, what is that supposed to be? So then that kind of puts a thought in her head that she kind of stores away, comes back later. It was kind of funny. It's sad because that Aunt Shasta is having these hallucinations because of her diagnosis, but she does say some sort of funny things. Nora finds out that she was abandoned by her mother as a baby in one of her little stories. She knows next to nothing about her family, so she submits a DNA test and has been reluctant to read the results. So now she finally reads them, and she finds out that she has a half-sister
named Becca, who lives in New Jersey. And there's also 2 other half-siblings, Maddie and Lex. And you don't really have to worry about all these people. Like Becca does play a little bit of a role, but again, you don't really know it until you get, but like by the time you turn the last page, you're like,
it was just a little side story.
Nora could have been totally eliminated from the story and it wouldn't have mattered at all.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So, but anyway, so they, there's
because
sort
Nora
of
is pregnant. That's kind of like the whole thing. The whole reason why she kind of tried to do a DNA test, reach out to her biological mother, is she just wanted some medical history. Is what she
yes, I think she was diagnosed with like gestational diabetes or something. And so so she wanted some history. Yeah.
So, but she doesn't want to know anything about her mom. She doesn't want to get to know her or her sister when she finds out she has happened. She doesn't.
She's actually kind of bitter toward the mom. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
She definitely has this chip on her shoulder about the mom that abandoned her.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we kind of go through all that. We find out she has the siblings. Then the story bounces back to kids. This is why I'm not a fan of this writing technique, and a lot of authors do it. I hate it when stories bounce back and forth from one POV to the next. Because like you said earlier, if there's 2 or 3 POVs, point of views, where the story's told from more than one character's POV, it bounces back and forth, and there's always one story, or at least for me, that you don't care about as much. It's just, it's not your favorite. And so like every time, and I did, every time we got to Nora, I was like, ugh.
And I was the same way. So I felt the same way, that I was like, I didn't care that much about her. Her story or what was going on. It was like, can we go back to Kathy?
Well, and the funny thing about, we've talked on the podcast before about how you read differently for a podcast than you do when you're just reading a book. When I'm reading a book, not for the podcast, if I came up to a Nora point of view, I would just probably skip it. Or I might skim it a little, because usually, even though that point of view is not your favorite, usually at some point it becomes relevant. They weave together somehow. So I figured at some point they were going to, but you can't really do that when you're reading for a podcast, because you don't want to miss anything important. You have
to assume that at some point it's going to be relevant.
But it really didn't.
It kind of didn't. Not with Nora. Not really.
Not really. Nora's husband was the more relevant figure in it, because he sort of was helping Cassie.
Cassie kind of, I don't know if she hired him, but she got his help at least, because he's like a private investigator.
Yes.
And she she started to suspect that things weren't exactly the way that she thought they were in regards to like her biological parents.
Based off what she was reading in these manuscripts. So anyway, so Cassie realizes that her aunts may not be well for very long. She tells Shasta that she doesn't remember her mom and asks what she was like. Well, Shasta says, Diane was my cousin. She had a baby. Basically, we find out Diana was Shasta's cousin.
And Cassie has been told her whole life is that her mom is Diane, which is Shasta's cousin.
And the reason it doesn't make sense, I put it in quotes. It was an incoherent answer, and it made her answer made Cassie realize that it may be too late to get the answers that she wants.
Because some of the interactions that Cassie was having with Shasta didn't make a lot of sense. Because of her Parkinson's or her dementia or whatever.
So Shasta goes into an art studio. Shasta is an artist. She loves painting. And it sounds like a pretty good artist. Apparently, a lot of the people on the island have her work. So she begins removing things from the cabinets. And she tells her, I don't know what I came in here for, but it's important. So at this point, we're really starting to realize her illness is taking a toll. Of course, it may be more because Cassie hasn't been around as much, so she just hasn't been here. But even from the reader perspective, for me, like I said earlier, it felt very sudden.
It was a very sudden decline in cognitive abilities and her health as well.
But we never really got to see Shasta before Cassie got there. So anything that we know about her was sort of inferred, or you were told through the narrative. So
through the narrative, they might talk throughout the book. They talk about the way she was prior to that. Little glimpses of like kind of who she was, the kind of character she had.
Mm-hmm.
But you do know that she was an artist. That was very important to her. And maybe, I don't know that she made a profession out of it. I mean, obviously she had the coffee shop. That was probably like her primary source of income. But I think she also had like a side hustle with the painting. I think she sold those, I believe.
Yeah.
To people around now.
Yeah, so she was a highly regarded, plus through the bakery or through the coffee shop, she was a very highly regarded person on the island.
Yes, it seemed like everybody loved her, and when the Parkinson's and things started taking a toll on her, I think they all just kind of chipped in and wanted to help her.
Yes, that's kind of how it is with a small town. That's why I like living in a small town. And I don't even think our small town is like this. Most people wouldn't chip in if somebody in your family came down with something. Yeah. Maybe a few people in your church or
hopefully
whatever.
Your church community.
Yeah. So when Nora's young daughter, her name is Gwendolyn. Okay, I also thought some of the characters had weird names. Did you think that?
Yeah,
Lark was the daughter's name, and Gwendolyn was the other little girl's name. I'm not usually one to like nitpick little things like that, but some of the character names were really bizarre. So anyway, Gwendolyn says she doesn't want to go to preschool because she doesn't like anyone there. I can understand that. Her mom says that she needs to go because it's a new learning experience. She needs to learn to get along with people she doesn't like. And Gwendolyn says, fine, but I'm not playing with the girls. And her mom tells her she always preferred the company of boys over girls because girls were more drama than guys. Yeah. Do you think girls are more drama than guys?
Yeah. Also be dramatic.
Yes, they can.
No, I think just in general, women have a tendency to be dramatic.
Yeah. Gwendolyn says she is not going to play with any of the girls. So anyway, bounces back to Cassie. Cassie and Shasta are having coffee. Lark's playing somewhere in the room. Shasta turns to Cassie and tells her that she needs to keep an eye on Lark because she's not safe out there. Cassie, of course, is concerned about why she would say such a thing, but she can't get Shasta to explain what she means.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I like about the community of Gold Bay, because they really are a really close, tight-knit community. But when Cassie and Lark moved back to Oregon, everybody really just welcomed them with open arms. They've never met Lark. They know Cassie, obviously, and they've known her since she was a little girl.
Yeah.
But because Cassie ran off when she got pregnant, I don't think she'd ever come back with the baby. To my knowledge, that I can recollect, I don't think she'd ever.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
With her child, and so this is the first time I think.
I'm not even sure Shasta ever met her. Maybe once or twice. Yeah.
Yeah, and so really, but especially for like just town folk that aren't really. Like, that's the first time they're getting to meet Lark, and they just fall in love with her.
They fall in love with her immediately.
I mean, they just really, and because Cassie's taken on a lot of responsibility. She's a caretaker now for not only her small daughter, but for Shasta. And with just all of the complications that come with Parkinson's and dementia and all of that. So they really, and helping with the coffee shop, because you've got that element to it as well. Like, she's the owner of the coffee shop. So Cassie's really trying to help in the coffee shop, help run that. But they will take Lark, like, so you've got Aubrey, which is real, like, she works in the coffee shop.
Yeah, she's kind of like another grandmother figure for Lark.
And then there's Miss Collins that owns the bakery that's close by.
Yeah.
Not too far, I think, from the coffee shop. And she'll take Lark, and like Lark is like my helper, it's kind of funny. They
make cookies together.
Yes. And so it's kind of like she's almost like her employee, they kind of joke about like that Lark has a job there, goes to work or whatever. So
which really releases Cassie's time to devote to her grandmother.
Well, yes, and that's what,
or to her aunt, to Aunt Shasta.
One of the things I like about the story is that Aubrey and Miss Collins and just different people in the community were so willing to, like, hey, I'm going to take Lark today. I'm going to take her for a couple of hours. We're going to do this, or I'm going to take her to the park, or whatever. Take her swimming, or And so you kind of get to see the dynamics of that community and the people that are really close to Shasta. That really want to help her. They want to help Cassie. But I think the author did a pretty good job of kind of endearing the reader to Lark, to that little girl, because she's just, seems to be just precious and everybody loves her.
Yes, she's a live wire. Yes.
She has like a really awesome personality and very like mature for her age. Like some of the things that she says, you're like, that's coming from a 4-year-old,
right?
Or a 5-year-old. Like, so I like the relationship that a lot of the townspeople have with Lark. And another person that we haven't talked about yet, but that he's already been introduced into the story, is it Marshall? Is that his name?
Marshall.
So he works in the coffee shop. He's young. He's a young stud, good looking, and all this apparently. And
I think he works in the coffee shop as a barista, but I think he also does like maintenance type stuff.
He like mentors youth.
Oh, okay.
Like type like that. I don't think he's not like a youth minister, I wouldn't say, like for the church, but I think he does like kind of like big brother type mentoring, like teenagers and things. But, so him and Cassie have an interaction just almost right away, very early on. Because she's coming in to make herself some coffee like early that morning. He's like, "Who are you?" Because she's trying to she knows how to work all the machines, espresso machines or whatever.
Yeah. Why are you making your own coffee? That's my job. Yeah.
It's like, why are you making the counter? Like, so they kind of have that kind of meet cute encounter with one another, and then they become friends. And he takes up with her and Lark. I mean, that's another thing that he'll take Lark. And he'll try to help with Lark in some way. And another aspect of it is there's these stairs that go from the shop, and their apartment is upstairs.
Yes.
So there's kind of like a steep, narrow staircase that goes up to the apartment, and then that's kind of like he'll maybe grab Lark and help get her up the stairs because that's where they live. That's like the only home that they have. And then Shasta's getting to where she needs to maybe in a wheelchair. She can't really get around that well. So that's one thing that they have to navigate. And that's one thing that later on in the book that some of the town people help make like a lift for Shasta.
Yeah, so she can ride down instead of
and not try to
walk.
Get down the stairs. Yeah.
So there's a lot of community in the book. But I knew the minute Shasta or Cassie and Marshall, they sort of had words with each other in the beginning. So I was like, oh, they're going to be a couple by the end of the book.
You know that.
If they don't like each other at first, that means they're going to wind up together. So Cassie is snooping around in Shasta's art studio. She finds an ornate box, and inside she finds pictures of her mom, and her dad at a beach. And there's a little bit of mystery in the book, too. Now, this is not a mystery suspense book, but there is sort of a little mystery in there, too, about
I didn't expect it.
Cassie's side of the family.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, because when she starts reading this manuscript, she just thinks, like, somebody just wrote a book. It's fiction. And there's things that start getting her attention that makes her think that she is reading a story about herself. Wait, what?
Yeah, why do you think this is about you all of a sudden? Narcissistic much?
Mark, and then she kind of. So it kind of, there were parts of that where I was like, why would she make that jump? Why would she make that assumption to begin?
Same. Yeah.
It was kind of odd.
It was very odd. I was like, okay, you're reaching there.
And so she's, because again, I feel like there wasn't, up to a certain point, I don't know what made her think that she was reading about.
As we got through it, she started just seeing little pieces of things in there that just rang a little bit true to her own life.
Yeah.
So Cassie, she wakes up in the middle of the night. She has heard something. She's not exactly sure what it is or if it was even anything. So she gets up, and Shasta's not in her bed or anywhere in the apartment. So she runs down to the shop, and the shop door is open just a little bit. So she panics, runs outside, and she sees Shasta sort of way down the street. She runs after her. She runs under a tree, smacks the one of the branches, smacks her in the forehead, slices her forehead open. She manages to get to Shasta, and Shasta says she's outside because she heard her mother calling to her. She talks about how her mom was sad because she kept losing her memories. So yet another example of just her declining health. So here now we're to where you were just talking about. Cassie gets another installment of the manuscript, and she begins to wonder if she's the person that is being written about in the book. But the baby's name in the book is Ainsley. She was born a month before Cassie's birthday, and so she wonders if the manuscript was written about her mother Diane, and if her mother was possibly still alive, because she's always thought her mom was dead. Yeah. She wonders if maybe her mom didn't want her, if she faked her death. I'm like, girl, you've been watching too much Days of Our Lives.
That's reaching.
Yeah, she thinks that maybe her mom faked her death. She left her with Shasta. But she also, after reading that the baby in the manuscript had a strawberry birthmark on her rib cage, she checks her own body and thinks she sees something there, but can't get a good look. So when she goes to the doctor to get her stitches removed, she asks the doctor to look, and her doctor says, yes, there's a remnant of a faint birthmark there. So, dum.
Yes. She's being, and again, like, I think there's part of her that's like, oh, you're being silly. Of course, that's not about you. But then there's still part of her that's like, yeah, maybe it is.
Yeah, exactly.
What does this mean? And who's sending this to me?
Yeah, exactly. So, Nora starts an Instagram page. Riveting.
Yeah.
And that is sort of how she kind of gets it. She finds one of her sister on Instagram. Of course, immediately out of the billions of people on Instagram, as soon as she joins Instagram, Becca finds her and starts talking to her. Well, Nora wants no part of it. She's like, I just want to know my family history. What do you know about me? I don't want to get to know you. I don't want to get to know your family. I don't want to meet you. Of course, Becca is like, oh, we want to meet you, so she's trying to force. Laura's like, no, Nora. Yeah. You. So Cassie meets with Ferris Milford. Don't y'all even remember this person, do you?
Well, so this is Nora's husband then, so he's like the detective that's trying to help her figure out what might be going on.
I didn't remember his name. Yeah. He tells her that he found a death certificate for Cascadia George. The child died of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, which is shocking because Cassie knows she didn't die at death. And again, she's jumping Cascadia, Cassie. This has to be me. Yeah. But I don't really. Yeah. Well, and again, the girl's name in the book was Ainsley. So yeah.
Right. I feel like there's not just a ton of like explanation as to how they reached.
Yeah. Well, but again, that could be intentional because the author she was trying to build sort of that little bit of suspense and tension in there. Again, it's not a suspense book, but you do just have this little bit of a mystery in there about.
So I think they're pretty convinced that the death certificate or whatever he found for Cascadia George is in fact supposedly Cassie, which obviously we all know she's alive and well and she didn't die at birth. So they're like, wait a minute, so what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like, has she been living under the wrong identity this whole time?
Did she get kidnapped maybe?
Yeah. That really raises that question, like, and then you think, was Shasta somehow involved in,
yes, have I been living with my kidnapper all this time? Yeah.
And so that is an interesting, it's a twist in the story for sure. You're like, what? It's like, well, hopefully Shasta's not a bad person that was kidnapped and shot.
And this is the point that it really started getting interesting to me, the manuscript. Because in the beginning, I was like, this is boring. Yeah. But you had to build it up. So, but like, that would be a bummer because Aunt Shasta was always a very likable character. So for her to turn up to be a kidnapper, that would not be ideal. Yeah. So Cassie and Nora's husband, Phil, what was his name? Bill Moore?
Yeah.
Whatever his name is, they're talking in a diner. They're sort of talking about this. He's telling her all the things he's found, that they're wondering if maybe she was kidnapped. Well, Nora comes in and she is furious because he's talking to Cassie.
Yeah, some jealousy there.
Yeah. Oh, and he's being discreet because Cassie doesn't want everyone thinking. Ferris. Ferris. So, and they sort of go into, Nora kind of gets mad because they were trying to be discreet. And so he tells her at some point in the book, I wasn't trying to keep a secret from you, but we were trying to keep it discreet until Cassie knew whether this was her story or not. Well, Nora kind of goes off about, well, you don't need to keep secrets from me. That's one thing I wanted to talk to you about as a married person. Because I didn't agree with her on that. What is your thought on a husband and wife keeping certain secrets from each other?
Well, and this is a different scenario because he is like a private detective, a police officer, whatever he is.
Yeah.
He's obligated. He has more obligations, but also obligations to like the office that he holds as a detective, like kind of like client privilege,
Yeah.
Client.
Well, and she, even if she didn't have that, she probably wouldn't want him coming home every night and giving her a 2-hour rundown of every person he's ever investigated.
So he's bound by the office that he holds, where you can't just go home and tell your wife everything that you're doing in all these cases that you're working on. I mean, it's privileged information. You know? And really, he could be putting her in danger if she knew some of this stuff. Probably.
Yeah.
But he's respecting the office that he's holding and just the laws in regarding that.
Yeah.
The privacy of your client and the confidentiality of that. And then, but I think just her as a person, because they knew each other, they were friends in high school, that he's just, I think, just being respectful.
Well, and especially in a small town, you do want to keep things quiet until okay, because she knew it was a possibility. This may have nothing to do with me. People in small towns talk. People in big towns talk, and so.
But I think under different circumstances, if it's just, if my husband was talking to, I don't know, an old friend of his or an old flame of his, then I'd be like, wait, what's going on? No, I would want the story. He wouldn't, to me, like, he should tell me, what's
hey, I'm working with Cassie, on something. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but I feel like she knew, like Nora knew that, I think she trusted him. I think there was just that.
I think it was that little bitty jealousy, that little bit of I don't like her from when we were in high school.
What are they doing? So, and I think, I don't know, I think the husband could have put her mind a little bit more at ease.
Yeah.
But I think just in the marriage in general, like open honesty is the best policy. Like, and you shouldn't keep it secret from yourself. Now, and that situation is she is like his client or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so let me tell you something that happened to me once. A good friend of mine. We've been friends since grade school. I told her something once. I don't even remember what it was now. It was nothing horrible. I just sort of confided something into her.
Yeah.
And I found out a month or two later, her husband, and I was really good friends with her husband too. We went to church together. So her husband mentioned something that I had mentioned to his wife. And I was like, okay, I've only told that to one person, so anyway, we kind of talked about it. And so I went to her later and I was like, why did you tell your husband that I told you? And again, it was nothing bad. And she was like, well, we don't keep secrets from each other. I said, no, you are a gossip. And so like, I do think you shouldn't keep, and I'm saying this as a single person, I've never been married. I do agree that you shouldn't keep secrets, but I do believe it's okay to keep confidences,
right?
Especially if it's not something that your spouse needs to know.
Not something that's pertaining.
If it's personal to somebody, I think it's okay to keep a confidence from your spouse.
Yeah.
Do you?
I think in that scenario, like if she had never said anything to him, he wouldn't have known. He wouldn't have known anything. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't going to. There wouldn't have been stress or a strain on the relationship. He wouldn't have known any different. He wouldn't. Like,
exactly.
It didn't mean one thing or another to him. He didn't know that you guys had even had the conversation.
No,
it wasn't anything that, you know what I mean. Had she not told him, he just would have never heard it. And
It was nothing that
them have one
impacted
other
their
way.
marriage. It was nothing that impacted either of their
Yeah.
lives. It was just whatever it was. It was just something that I confided, and yeah, and it didn't bother me that he knew, but I was just like, she was like, well, we don't keep secrets from each other. I said, no, you like to gossip. And I told her that. I said,
called her
no,
out on it.
I did. I said, no, you like to gossip.
And you just know the person. I mean, people are like that.
They are.
And there are just certain people, like, I can't tell that person certain things, or unless I want other people to know.
Yeah.
And I mean, so no.
And my mom and I have actually had this conversation. One of her best friends is but her best friend, like, she knows this about herself. She would even say, okay, I'll listen, but I'm going to tell it probably. So if this is not something like,
at least she was honest.
Yeah, she was honest about it. Yeah.
Tell other people this information.
Yeah, and she didn't. And she told Mom, she said, I don't do it out of malice, but like, when I get talking to blah 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 whoever, it's just things roll out, and I just don't think about it, and then before I know it, I've said it, and it's too late to take it back.
That reminds me of somebody that I knew, like, precious woman, precious Christian woman, love the Lord, this precious woman, but she was a talker, and I mean, she was just talking. And so anything that she had talked to you about, she would go and talk to other people. She would. It's just any information that she got, she was going to probably go and tell other people that information. But she,
and again, she didn't do it out of malice. Probably
not.
It's just she had loose lips.
Yeah, and some people are just like that. I mean, they just can't help themselves. They cannot stop from talking and telling things that they know.
Well, and I've done it before too. In fact, I did it at work once, not meaning to, but I kind of said something. You know how sometimes you say something and you say it, and it caused a huge firestorm in the office. What I said, it made it sound like I was saying one thing, but if I had just used another word instead of another word, none of this would have. But it just, the way I said it, it left the impression that I knew information that I didn't. And it caused this huge firestorm. I do, and I felt horrible about it. Yeah, I went to my boss and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I did not mean it." She kind of laughed. She was like, "Oh, don't worry about it." But then again, you also have those people where if something like that happens, they're immediately going to fly off the handle.
Well, and we've all done it.
We've all done it.
We've all stuck our foot in our mouths when we shouldn't. Wish we could take it back. Wish we could reel it back in. And
it's just so easy to do, and especially as a Christian, you don't want to be that person. You want to be meek, you want to be.
Well, you want to feel like you want to be a person that people
can trust,
and like have a confidence with you. You know, but I don't know. I've probably, more than not, I've probably run my mouth when I shouldn't.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm like, Jessica, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah. Well,
you work on that. You talk too much. You just need to shut up sometimes.
I tell myself that all the time. Brett, you need to learn to keep your mouth shut. Even though I don't mean it in malice, sometimes it just kind of slips out. Like I said, sometimes you say things in a way that that's not what you meant, but it came out a certain way. But I'll be honest, especially if somebody's pushing me, I can be a pretty in your face person if you push me. There have been times where I've been, oh yeah. Yeah.
I know.
That's one of my weaknesses as a human. I'm mouthy. I am.
Well, one thing I think that I like about you and your cousin Melissa is that you're very direct and very forward, and you take up for yourself. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking up for yourself or speaking your mind, or just like, well, because I like that quality about you too. I feel like I don't possess it. Like I wish I could be a little bit more like that, more just kind of direct, straightforward.
Like if you and I could both find that middle ground somewhere, that would be good for both of us. Because I do probably need to be less vocal about stuff. But boy, when something comes up and I want to say it, I say it sometimes.
But I will say on the flip side of that is there are people that are malicious.
Yes.
That are pot stirred, that use information that they get to manipulate, to hurt other people. Like it's very purposeful. And
it's very calculated. They've got an agenda in there, and that's the kind of person I don't want to be.
No.
Yeah.
And stay away from that person.
Exactly. Nobody wants to be around that kind of person. Boy, we digressed.
Yeah, we definitely.
So anyway, so Nora gets furious because they're talking together. Then we jump to the manuscript. We find out that there's a woman in the book, and her husband's name is Topher. At this point, the woman in the book is never really, you don't know who the character is in the book. You don't know who that person is until the very end. Right. But we do know that the woman's husband name is Topher, and they've got a very strained relationship. He's kind of abusive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
yeah, I think because she talks about that she has all, like from the time she was a little girl, she always wanted a family of her own. She wanted to have kids. And
he didn't. I think he was like a very highly professional person, wasn't he?
I think he was doing well for himself in a career, and
life was good, and he didn't want a baby to mess it up.
I think he was happy with her. I think they had probably a good marriage at first until she started wanting a baby. And he didn't want a baby, and she did, and that was causing friction between them.
Yes.
And then it's like he became abusive verbally, more verbally than anything else, but I don't know about physically. But
yeah, I don't remember any physical abuse.
Maybe at one point.
Was it?
Maybe. But where he maybe slapped her or pushed her or something. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember, but definitely verbally and emotionally abusive.
Yeah.
And then he would just be away all the time, going these business trips and stuff. And you're like, and as a reader, you're like,
you know where that,
He has a change of heart about it for some reason.
And she one of the reasons she wants to have a child, and I want to know what you think about this. One of the reasons she wants to have a child is because she thinks it'll mend their relationship.
Yeah.
Does that ever work in real life? That's the worst reason to have a kid.
Yeah.
If your relationship is that bad, you don't need to have a kid.
Agreed. Yes, there is. I mean, I feel like a therapist could just go crazy on this. Yeah,
no doubt. There are so many red flags in these people.
Yeah. Especially her, and just because she talked about how she would make excuses for him. She would make excuses for his behavior. Which
is typical of a victim of mental and emotional abuse. You often make you often sort of make excuses for your abuser.
But she also because she had this mental picture of what she wanted her life to look like, what she wanted her husband to act like, look like, be like.
Yes, she wanted the postcard marriage,
right? And so she had put him in this role.
And no man can stand up to that postcard image.
He's human.
Of course, he wasn't trying to either.
But so she would try to. It's almost like she was trying to make him into that in her mind. And when she would talk about him to friends or whatever, like he was this perfect husband and all this, when he wasn't in reality, thinking, "Oh yeah, if we have a baby, that's going to change everything. He's going to be a good husband."
Well, but really, what it's going to do is give you company while he's on his business trips.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
Yeah. And so obviously, they had problems with infertility for a long time. They figured out that that's not going to happen. She's not going to be able to get pregnant and have a baby. They got an egg donor. This is important to the story. So his sperm was fine. It wasn't him. It was her. Her eggs weren't any good. So they got an egg donor. They inseminated her. She gets pregnant. Okay. So she actually does carry the baby.
She carries the baby.
But it's not her egg. So it's not her biological child. So she gets pregnant and she's just happy. Thank you, God. This is working. We're going to get a baby. That's what she's always wanted. And then she does have the baby, and they seem to be happy for a while. So.
Yes, they in fact, they go on a vacation together. They go to California. And then while they're in California, they decide to go across the border and take a little day trip into Mexico. So they're shopping around. The baby's, in a stroller or whatever. And while they're shopping, they realize that the baby has been quiet for too long, that is normal. So when she goes to check on the baby's gone. Yeah. And of course, this is all happening in the manuscript. We're reading this in the manuscript.
Well, something I wanted to mention about, because the Topher, the father, he was the one that had the stroller, and they had put like this blanket over, because it was to keep the sun from glaring in. They put like a little blanket over, so she couldn't see inside the stroller. and he kept pushing her off because she kept wanting to check the child.
And he was like, don't bother her.
He wouldn't let her.
Yeah.
And you're just like, that is very sus.
Why does he not want her to look?
And so the whole time I'm thinking, which I don't know, spoiler alert, but I'm like, he is involved.
That's exactly what I thought.
He's involved.
Yeah, I knew. I was like, he's involved somehow. Yeah. He's either done something or he's paid somebody to do something, or because he never wanted a child.
Right.
He agreed to it, but there's a difference in wanting it and agreeing to it.
Because the baby is comes up missing. Like,
yes.
She finally and it said because she was like, I'm not gonna let him stop me this time, and she reached around him before he had time to stop her and rip the blanket off, and there's no child in the stroller anymore. It
really gets interesting at this point. And this is another little thing that makes Cassie think, because she almost named Lark Ainsley. Again, grasping at straws. That's a little bit too convenient. But the baby in the story's name was Ainsley, but had changed to Lark. She's like, this can't be a coincidence because Ainsley is not that common of a name. So
how would she know that? I mean, if it was just in her subconscious, because she was called Ainsley for the first time. I mean, how old was she when she was 2 years old or something?
Something like,
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe subconsciously that was, and she was called that. By her parents up to a certain point.
Yeah, so maybe it was in there subconsciously. Again, there's just a little bit more for her to dig into and say, okay, this is about me. This is about my life. So when Miss Collins comes over and brings some dinner, because that's another lovely thing about this community. They take care of each other. They know that Cassie is struggling to take care of Shasta, to take care of her daughter. Yeah. She's stressing out because she's got all these student loans. So they bring her food, and Cassie asks Miss Collins where she came from before Gull's Bay in the hopes that maybe Miss Collins can give her some answers about Cassie's past. But the question kind of rifles Miss Collins' feathers. She immediately gets tense and won't give her a direct answer. Which again, when somebody's evasive, you think, what are you not telling me? That was just more for her to latch onto and be like, okay, there's something that some people are not telling me. Yeah. So in the middle of the night, Cassie gets up. Shasta gets up for a drink of water. She asks Cassie if she thinks Diane is her real mother. And then Shasta says, nope, and goes back to bed.
She just gets very little from Shasta.
Yeah, bless her heart. At this point, Shasta is pretty much gone. The next morning at breakfast in the coffee shop, Shasta points out the woman seated at the table. She's always there with the computer, and she sort of nudges Cassie and says, she's the one. Yeah. And so Cassie wonders what it is about this woman, because this is not the first time Cassie's made that sort of statement about the woman that Shasta has made about the woman. So she wonders if Shasta means that this woman is her real mom. Maybe she thinks, is this the woman who's dropping off the manuscript? So then we go back into the manuscript. Topher and this woman, the unnamed woman, they go back home after so much time. They stay for a while because they're they don't want to leave without their kid.
They got the authorities involved in everything. And it doesn't take long that I think the authorities supposedly said, we found the body. Nothing was ever identified. I think it was ever sent.
I think they just kind of were, the authorities were like, this is your child. It's the same age range. So, story closed. So, case closed. She's dead. Yeah. So they go home without any idea where their baby went. The woman in the story is never convinced that they found her child's body. And of course, when something horrible like that happens, what happens? Your marriage usually disintegrates because they didn't have the strongest marriage anyway. So their marriage just goes down the toilet. He goes on another business trip, and just every time he goes, he's gone even longer and longer and longer. One day, Topher is standing in the street, and he's trying to get a cab. There's 7 or 8 other people out there, and he's struck down by a car and is killed. So 4 of the 7 people die. Meanwhile, after this happens, some of the authorities in Mexico call, and they say they found bones of a baby. They think it's Ainsley, and they promise to send her the remains, but they never do. So she buries Topher and sets up a headstone for Ainsley. And again, this is in the manuscript. She sets up a headstone for them. and then takes a bunch of pills in the hopes of taking her life, but it doesn't work. She forgot that her housekeeper had changed the hours that she was working. So anyway, her housekeeper winds up coming in, calls 911, and she's saved. Her best friend comes to the hospital, brings her a Bible, and tells her that God still has a purpose for your life, even if you don't understand what it is. And I mean, you can't hear that too much in life.
I mean, think about what she just has gone through.
Yeah.
She thinks her baby is dead. And then she lost her husband, even though he wasn't the best husband to her, but still.
He was still some sort of.
So it's like she's her daughter.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, he was her financial security.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, and so that's like two huge blows. Back to back, and I mean that would crush anyone.
Oh yeah.
So obviously she's having a natural reaction here, like I can't go on living, like there's nothing else for me, and so God brings this person along to kind of give her encouragement and like, no, there's still purpose for your life, even though you've had major loss.
Even as a Christian, it can be easy to lose sight that God has a purpose in your pain. That God has a purpose in the things in your life that are not going right. When you don't have the money to pay the bills, it can be easy to lose sight of the fact that God's still in control.
Well, I tell you, when you're going through the valley, when you're in that valley, you're going through whatever it is, and you're in the middle of it, it just feels like it's never ending. It feels like you're never going to get out of it. It just feels hopeless.
It does. Yeah. And those are the times, because a lot of times when you're going through that, you don't feel like praying as much as you should. Yeah. You don't feel like reading the Bible that you should. And then when you get to that point that you do stop doing those things, guess what? That compounds what you're going through. It just makes it worse.
It really does. Because in that scenario, the only hope you have left is Jesus Christ. You know,
absolutely.
It's like, where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. That's been a theme in my life where you go through something and then it just really, for me, I just cling to God. I cling to the hope that I have in Jesus Christ, because like when everything else is just stripped away from you, there's nothing else left. It's like, okay, God, you're all I have left. All I have left is the hope that you give.
Yeah.
And
but the interesting thing is, a lot of times, and I'm not throwing stones here because we've all been in those places. A lot of times when you get to that point when you are stripped clean and you have nowhere else to turn, that's a lot of times that's the point when you turn away from God. And that's the point when, some people do. And that's the point when we blame God. Yeah, and that's the point really when God wants you to draw closer to him, but that is not your fleshly response.
Yeah, I agree that there could be two reactions there.
Yeah.
And
you take the wrong path or the right path.
It would be easy to blame God for, why is this happening to me? What have I done to deserve this? Why are you allowing this? And I think you go through those questions in your mind, whether you're a Christian or not, whether you're strong in your faith or not, whether you've been doing this for years and years, decades and decades. Yeah. It's still, when you're going through tough times, you question the goodness of God. You question the faithfulness of God. Yeah. And I feel like for me, when I've had those questions in my mind, when I've questioned those things about God, he's always reminded me, his Holy Spirit always reminds me, I am still good. I am still faithful.
This is one thing I firmly believe this. I don't think God hates you when you question him.
No, I don't think he blames you.
I have heard people in the church say, if you question God, you don't have faith in God. I don't believe that of God. I think God understands when we question him, when we question what's going on. You don't want to question him to the point that it makes you turn away from God. Right. But God understands when we are like, I do not understand what you're doing. I don't understand what's going on here, Lord. What are you doing?
What good could come from this?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I think God understands because that's the human side of us.
Yes.
That, we need understanding. And sometimes we don't get the exact clarity or the exact understanding, the answers that we want to our question. But God gives us what we need. He gives us enough. And sometimes we just have to have enough faith in God that even though this doesn't make sense to me right now in this moment, doesn't make sense to me, that I'm still going to trust that God is sovereign, that God is good and God is faithful. He knows more than I know. He has good in mind for me, and He's gone before me. He sees what's up ahead. He's not bound by time like we are, so He can see in every time frame of our lives. He already sees it, and He already knows it. From like the time we were born until the time we die, He already knows what our existence will be, what our lives are going to be like. And He knows what's up ahead for all of us. And so that's where faith comes in.
But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you're not going to experience pain and hurt, because sometimes He has a plan for that. What we don't understand now can be for our good a year from now, 6 months from now, 10 years from now. A story that popped in my mind when you were talking about that was Jesus on the cross.
Yeah.
When he prayed, Lord, if this is your will, let this cup pass from me. Jesus was man, but He was also God. But He was still man enough to say he understood why He had to do what He had to do. But He still prayed, if this cup be your will, let this cup pass from me.
He was human enough there was still part of Him like, I don't want to do this if I
don't have to.
I don't want to go through this kind of pain if I don't have to. And
exactly.
None of us do.
None of us
you
do.
You don't want to go through the pain. You don't want to go through the struggle.
But what would our lives have been like today if Jesus had said, I don't want this cup, I'm not going to do it?
Right. And I'm glad. Obviously, so thankful that He was willing to sacrifice His own life for us.
Yeah.
For our
and
sins,
again, when
iniquities.
you're in the heat of the moment, sometimes it's hard to think of it like that.
Well, and again, like, you do have to just try to see outside of the situation sometimes, because it's hard to do that when you're in it.
Yes,
when you're in the middle of it, in the midst of it, it's hard to see beyond it. But it's like, there's going to come an end to this. Like, this isn't the end. There's something beyond this. There's something outside of this.
Exactly.
I won't take you out of it, but I'll get you through it. And He can turn any bad around for our good and His glory. Think about your life and think about any hardship you've ever gone through. You were a better person because of it. Like, once you got through it and got to the other side of it, you build character. There's just you learn from those things. And you grow from those things.
Yeah.
So it betters you as a person, and it gives you empathy and sympathy for anyone else that's going through something.
Always remember, there's light at the end. There always is.
And that's what I have to tell and remind myself, and that's what God reminds me. This is just part of your journey. This is part of your story.
Yeah.
But there's
from our human earthly standard, it feels huge. It feels like it's never going to end. But if you look at it from God's eternal perspective, that's just a little bitty blip in the course of your life.
Yeah. So to try to keep that perspective, it's hard.
It's hard. I really think the enemy, Satan, he tries to get you to forget that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna play mind tricks on you. He's gonna work on you hard.
Yeah.
Because that's kick you while you're down. That's what he's good at. When you're going through it, you're not at your best. You're not your strongest. You're vulnerable. You're in a vulnerable state. Yeah.
And that's when Satan attacks. Satan is a coward. He doesn't attack when you're strong, when you're on the mountaintop. He still does, but he really tries to get his talons in you when you're vulnerable, when you're sad, when you're at the end of your rope. That's when he knows he can get a foothold.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. We can just keep talking about
good
this,
talk.
But it's spiritual warfare, really, when it comes down to it.
Telling you, I'm re-editing my book War Songs to make it a little bit shorter, and every bit of what we're talking about is in that book. So
Well, and you gotta fight on your knees. You got to fight that spiritual battle.
Yeah, there is a spiritual battle going on around us.
There's an enemy after your soul.
Still kill, destroy. Yeah.
the word of God, that's your sword, that's your weapon. And
yeah, there ain't nothing that will shut the enemy down faster than claiming God's word, because he cannot fight against that. He'll try to twist God's word and say, kind of like he did with Adam and Eve. Did God really say that if you eat this, you'll die?
And you've got the word of God that you can lay claim to, and you can just quote scriptures to the enemy. And he can't argue that.
No, because even he knows that's the ultimate authority.
But you know, God's word says, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper." You got to claim those scriptures, and it's like, and God will set up a standard against it. You know, in the name of Jesus. I mean,
you just got your dose of daily encouragement. If you haven't had it today, you're welcome.
Was it Paul or David that encouraged himself in the Lord?
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes you have to encourage yourself.
Yes, and I know you've heard this too. If you've been in church in any amount of time, you've heard this too. Well, I'm leaving that church because I'm not being fed. Feed yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't go to church. Go to church and receive, but you can't subside on Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. You got to feed yourself every day in between.
That's your responsibility.
It's your responsibility. Yeah. So good talk. Yeah. So did you have any more to say on that?
I think
we could keep going forever. Yeah. So Cassie, after she reads all that in the manuscript, she Googles Ainley missing in Mexico, which is something she's been terrified to do because, you know, sometimes you want to know the answers, but you really don't. Sometimes you're afraid of what the answers are. As she's online, she finds an old flyer of when they were looking for a baby, and the eyes, she finds this flyer, the baby and the eyes look just like hers. So again, she's convinced that this is her. She starts wondering if Shasta played a role in her kidnapping. She wonders if Diane kidnapped her. And as she looks into her mom's death in Seattle, it strikes her that they both died in Seattle, both her mom and Topher. And so she wonders if Topher had been in Seattle looking for Ainley, and that's what he got killed. Now we're back to
the puzzle's starting to come together.
Yes. Yeah, it's starting to come together. Nora gets a call from Maddie, one of the three sisters, blah, blah, blah. And she can't stand that her daughter and Gwendolyn, Nora's daughter, have become friends.
Yes. I mean, isn't that the way it goes?
I'm like, honey, it's
your
been 20.
Become friends with your enemy's kid.
Exactly. It's like, get over it. You've been out of school for 20 years.
They both need to let it go, because I think Cassie also has a little
animosity,
bit of I guess.
Yeah.
Nora. So pretty much just like years have gone by, your lives have taken different paths. It's like,
I'm not sure how old they are at this point, how long they've been out of school. I mean, they must be pretty young that Cassie.
They're still young. I'm in their mid-20s.
Yeah, but they've been out of school long enough that you could start letting it go. But again, easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah.
So Cassie wakes up one morning with Shasta. She's burning with the fever, so she takes her to the ER. And as they walk out the door, Shasta tells her, they're going to find out. I've seen them. They're coming for her. So you get a little bit more of that.
Like, what is going
on? You get that dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, because you think, okay, Shasta knows something.
But she's just not present enough to be able to verbalize it. Yes. So Cassie asks her what she means, who's coming for her, and Shasta tells her that she has always loved Cassie and always will. So again, she doesn't get an answer. At the hospital, the doctors tell Cassie that dementia patients often decline quickly, which again is what happened in this story. From the time the story started to now, Shasta her life has just disintegrated.
Oh, yeah.
Declined so much really fast. So she has pneumonia. Her blood work shows decreased liver function, and she's looking at having to go into hospice, which basically usually people go into hospice for end of life care. So of course, Cassie, she's just devastated. But the doctor reminds her that she's diagnosed with Parkinson's 5 years ago, and that she'd easily have at least 10 more years if it was only the Parkinson's. But the real problem is the Lewy body dementia. So Cassie holds a meeting with all of Shasta's friends. They need to decide how to proceed. And she really wants Shasta's friends' input because they're the ones that have been here with Shasta all along. Cassie's just kind of writing in at the last minute.
Yeah, she kind of is.
Yeah. But so I thought that was very prudent of her to say, I need to bring these people into it. So their options are to send her to hospice and let her live out her last days, or to let her live out her last days at home with the help of the home health workers, which of course would require a lot of changes. They would need to put a lift on the stairs so she could get down from the bedroom. So basically, after they go through all their options, they decide they want Shasta to live out the rest of her life at home where she'd be comfortable, where she knows where she is. They think that'll bring her peace in her last days.
I feel like between all of them, they can manage.
Yeah.
It's the man that Marshall is kind of, I don't know, is he living with that man or Mr. So-and-so, but he's the one, him and Marshall build this lift.
That's why I thought he was like a maintenance person or something. Yeah, they sort of come in and build the lift, and they sort of do sort of the construction stuff.
But he's another person that has been there for all these years that they're friends with.
So then we jump back to the manuscript. The woman is clearing out Topher's things from the closet. Of course, she finds a box of things. There's a picture of a woman and a child that she doesn't recognize. So, of course, you're like, oh, my goodness, he's been living a double life. But after thinking about it for a while, she realizes the woman looks familiar and that the woman in the picture was one of the victims that died with Topher. There was a picture in the newspaper of all the victims. So in another picture, she finds a picture of Topher and Ainsley. But Ainsley is older than she was in the last picture. The picture was taken at a location that she had never been. So she hires a private investigator who finds out that Topher was living a secret life with this woman, and he had a child with her. Yeah. So can you imagine the devastation?
Which I feel like she should have known. She should have known that he was cheating on her.
She should have. I mean, just the business trips alone.
I know.
And I know that a lot of people go on business trips, and it doesn't mean they're having affairs. But
this one was kind of odd.
Their relationship was trash. So
and so, but what tips her off though is she finds the picture of Ainsley, an older Ainsley, and she's like, "Wait a minute, Ainsley died when she was."
Exactly.
2 years old, 3 years old.
Yeah, so how could she be alive in this picture now?
How is there a picture of her when she's like 5 years old? You know, obviously like a few years older.
So it reopens those suspicions. Yeah, so Cassie Googles the events that happen in the manuscript and finds information. There's no Topher in any of the articles, but there is a Christopher Reynolds and a Diane George who were killed in the accident, which Diane George was her mother. Or was George her mother's last name?
Well, Diane George was supposedly her mother. That is Shasta's cousin.
So how did she die?
And I don't think Cassie ever got the truth about how Diane died. Or maybe Shasta didn't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Shasta sort of goes through, I can't believe.
Diane died in this accident.
In the accident.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I think Shasta knew that. I think that was the explanation.
She just didn't realize when she was reading it at the time that her mom was one of those victims. Yeah. Yes. So, of course, this brings a new sense of understanding. And so she's like, why did Shasta not ever tell me the full story of what happened with her mother? And so fast forward a little, come back to real life. The home health nurse comes. Cassie expects Aubrey to show up first. There's a knock on the door, and she tells them to enter, and it's not the nurse, it's Aubrey. So a couple minutes later, there's another knock. Cassie tells Lark. Okay, so here's the funny thing about this. Lark always gets in trouble. Anytime there's a knock on the door, Lark always answers the door, and Cassie's trying, without knowing, even in this little town, she's trying to teach her daughter a lesson. So she's always tried to teach her, do not answer the door until you know what it is. You cannot do that. So anyway, Cassie tells Lark, okay, well, it's probably the home health nurse. Go ahead and answer the door. Well, Lark goes, well, I can't. You won't let me because I don't know who's at the door. Isn't this so like a child? The one time you want them to do it, they won't do it.
You know it's me.
Yes,
open the door.
Exactly. Mom has told you to do it. Well, I can't because you won't let me because I don't know who's at. That is just like a child to start following the rules when you don't want them to. So she finds a marriage certificate online, and she finds out that Christopher Reynolds married Amanda Gray in 1989 in Santa Barbara. We fast forward a little bit. Cassie hears Shasta in the middle of the night. She goes to the kitchen, and Shasta's trying to open the drawers that are protected with childproof locks. Cassie asks if you want a drink. Shasta flies into a rage and says, "You can't take her. She's mine." So when Cassie asks who she's talking about, Shasta growls and says,
Oh,
So at this point, Shasta is starting to get a little bit spicy.
Yeah. So if Cassie is really this Ansley that got kidnapped, what happened to her?
Yes.
If she's still alive, obviously, like, how did she end up with Shasta? If she belonged to this other woman and supposedly got kidnapped in Mexico and supposedly died in Mexico. Yeah, it's just like, wait a minute. I'm trying to piece all
It's
this
very
together.
convoluted. Cassie's talking on the phone with the hospice administrator, and she asks what Cassie's plans are for when Shasta passes. Horrible conversation to have. She asks if she'll move back to California. Well, Cassie realizes now that even though she's lived in California for years, her life there was very lonely. So she basically says, I think I'm going to stay in Gulf Bay.
Well, I think she just came home. That was
Yeah,
home. That was always home to her, and
she's got a support system.
Returned home. She's gotten to know these people again, reacquainted with them. Now there's this added element of a love interest, which is Marshall.
Yes.
We haven't talked enough about him, I feel
Yeah,
like.
he kind of played little small roles. But one thing I liked about Cassie and Marshall, I really liked that she didn't write it as an insta love. It was very much a slow burn. Yeah, which I feel like that is a more realistic. I hate insta love.
Yes.
Maybe it happens. I'm sure there are people out there that would say it's happened to them. But I really liked that their relationship, because Cassie had so much going in her life.
Yeah,
It really would not have made sense for them. So I like the way the author portrayed them.
Yeah, because they were just friends. There was some attraction between them, but like neither one of them really had time to explore more than just friendship. But yeah, so there's a lot of reason now for her to stay in Gold Bay. She did have a friend that she was roommates
Terry,
with,
yes,
that lived in California, but she's about to get married, and they actually want to have their wedding in Gold Bay. So that's part of it. Is her friend has come to town. They're trying to plan this wedding.
Yeah,
I'd be getting ahead of
a little bit ahead, but that's all right. So the inevitable happens, and Cassie wakes up one morning, and Shasta has gone home to be with the Lord during the middle of the night. There's a little quote in there that I found that I really liked. It says, "People might not stay on this earth long in body, but when they give their hearts to others while they're alive, when they sacrifice for others' well-being, a piece of them goes on after death, through the lives of the people they've touched."
That's I like that too.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's like, if you were like a selfless, if you were a giving person and you really gave yourself to others, you help people in your community, and it lives on in those people.
Yeah, the people, those people in that town will never forget Shasta because of the indelible mark she left.
Through Cassie and then through Lark.
Yeah. So now Cassie's worried about how she's going to pay for all of her student loan debt. Of course, that's sort of been a little bit of a trend through the whole book. It's always at the front of your mind. Well, Marshall comes in. He sees the stress in her countenance and asks what's going on. She tells him kind of what's going on. He asks if she's considered applying for a deferral. She tells him she might look into it, but that she got herself into the mess and that she'll get herself out of it, which is kind of a Shasta trait. Shasta was kind of that kind of woman.
Independent.
And he goes, "Oh, there's the woman I know." Because at this point, their relationship is a little bit frustrated with each other because he wants to help her, but Cassie doesn't really want his help.
Yeah, it's kind of like they have moments of like closeness, and then something happens that they're kind of like at odds a little bit.
Which is normal in any relationship.
Yep.
Yeah. So when she asks him what he means, he says, "You don't need anyone but yourself." And of course, she can't deny it because she knows it's true. So they have a little bit of a spat, and he turns to leave and tells her to forget that he was ever here. She tells him that she'll be glad to. So they leave in a little bit of a snit. Then we go back to the manuscript. And again, at this point, I'm calling her the writer or the woman because at this point we still don't know who it is. The woman goes into the apartment building of the second woman that Topher had been seeing and pretends to be Diane's old college friend. She finds an older woman who wonders what happened to her daughter, which is strange because Ainsley has already died. The woman asks if she's thinking of a different person, and the old woman says the girl's name was Cassie, not Ainsley. but that she hadn't heard a thing about her since the old woman came and picked up the boxes and left. So at this point, Cassie thinks Shasta came and picked them up.
Which I think Shasta did. I think that was Shasta, but Shasta didn't realize at that point that, you know, all that had happened. I think the conclusion we come to is that Topher had the baby kidnapped, Ansley kidnapped, and he gave that baby to his other his mistress, other family that he had. Because I think they had a baby together, but that baby died. And so I think he was like replacing that baby with the baby that he had.
Yeah. So deplorable.
Yeah.
And the last thing the old woman in the building says is the lady who came was from a little town in Oregon. I don't know, Goal something.
Yeah.
So that's when, that's when the pieces start to fall together.
Cassie, who she thought was Diane's child.
Yeah. So Ferris, who is Nora's husband, tells Cassie that the Mexican government has taken back the claim that they found Ainsley's body and that there was no proof that that was Ainsley. But they do, however, know that she isn't Cascadia George. So he tells her not to draw attention to herself because at this point, she's using a dead girl's social security number, which would mean she could have fraud charges brought against her if the government found out. So he tells her she may want to get a lawyer.
I think Cassie was the name of the daughter that he had with this mistress woman, and that kid died for some reason. But so I guess he must have actually loved this mistress woman, and so is that Diane?
Yes.
Okay. So
yes.
So that is Shasta's cousin, Diane. So I wonder, did she know she was the woman on the side with him?
I don't think it ever said that.
Because obviously, like, she knew that her child died. Where did this new child come? Did she not question that he shows up with a new child?
Where did this child come from?
Yeah. So I'm kind of questioning.
Maybe I missed something
when I was reading it. So was Diane like okay with him bringing a random child in and saying, "Here's your new child"?
I mean,
sorry, we lost the one we had. Here's a new one.
That should be a red flag to you. Where'd you get this kid?
Yeah.
Did you steal him?
Did she know about?
Maybe she did.
To this other woman?
Maybe she knew she was the mistress.
Was she in on it? No, I just can't remember.
Yeah, but it's been 3 weeks, so I could have just forgotten it.
But I will say this: I don't think Shasta knew.
No, Shasta definitely didn't. Yeah,
she just thought that was Diane. That was Cassie.
Yeah,
that was Diane's baby.
Yeah,
because Diane had a baby named Cassie. And they must have kept it secret that child died. I can't remember what happened with that.
But I'm saying even if the Diane did know that he had a second life and hey, I'm bringing you this baby to replace it's my real wife.
Yeah, that's
still creepy to be like, okay,
Diane should
I'll
have
take
a problem
her.
with that.
Yeah, Diane should have a problem with that.
Like
so
a real problem with that. So
that's their moral systems clearly were not up to par.
Diane's part in all of it, or the knowledge she had.
It's odd that I don't remember that. I'm sure it was explained, but it's probably something that I missed. So anyway, Cassie and Marshall, they finally make up. He makes sure that she knows he wants to be a part of Cassie's and Lark's life. Nora comes into the bakery and tells Cassie that the school district is looking to fill a permanent teacher position. Cassie either was going for her master's degree or she had just finished it. She was going for a doctorate. Okay.
And she didn't finish that.
Okay. He tells her that that there's a permanent position, and he asks if she'd be interested in it because she was planning on just being a substitute teacher. She was like in marine biology. And so she's like, I could teach schools about all the marine life in their community. Yeah. So, and of course, she's interested in that because she needs to make money. So now we go back to the manuscript. Topher,
which is kind of interesting that Nora is the one that approached her about like, hey, do you want to, like, offered her the job, and it's like,
yeah.
Well, I thought Nora didn't like her. Why would she be doing her a favor? I don't know. Maybe she's evolving.
Maybe she's letting bygones be bygones. Yeah. So do we come back to the manuscript? Topher and Ainsley. We find out that Topher took Ainsley from the writer and gave her to his mistress. She had wanted to claim her child back, but she now sees how well adjusted she was to living in Gulls Bay with Shasta. So the writer left California and made Gulls Bay her new home, and Shasta and Cassie have become part of her family and started going by the middle name. We're not going to tell you who the person is. We want to save that for you in case you want to read it for yourself. It turns out that the writer is somebody that popped up several times throughout the story.
Yeah, somebody that they know. I like when the writer, the mom, the real mom of Ansley / Kathy, when she finds out that, oh my gosh, my child is still alive. I mean, can you imagine having that
the
moment
shock.
of realization that she thought her dead all these years? And years have gone by. So it was like, 10 years or something like that, 10, 11, 12 years. So for that long, and she finally moved on with her life. Like, so she talked about how she was kind of like a halfway house where she would have, like, I don't know, runaways or addicts or whatever, like, come and stay with her. She really did something with her life. Like, she kind of used the tragedy of her life to help others. So that was really, like, commendable. It was like we talked about that woman saying God still has purpose for you. Well, she found a new purpose in life.
Yes.
And she was helping other people that were in trouble in some way. So she goes, a good decade or something of just moved on with her life. She's helping people in need. And then she finds out that her child is still alive, after all this time. And she's like, okay, well, I have to go to my child. I have to see my child. And when she's like, goals something, well, she figures out Gold Bay, Oregon, and she goes, and she said when she first saw Cassie, she had like a hood on. It was raining, so she didn't really get to see her face, but she thought that was her. And then she comes back. She kind of sticks around town for a while, and then she's frequenting the coffee shop so she could get another look at her. And then she comes in, and she's got a good look of her face. She sees her, and she's like, man, like, that's her. She knew it was her. The facial features and things.
Yeah.
And, how hard that would have been to not just be like, that's my child, and try to lay claim to her. And she knew pretty quickly that, because at that point, Ansley / Kathy is like 11 years old or something. Yet she's living the only life she's ever known with a mom figure that's the only mom figure she's ever known.
Yeah.
She's like, I would rip her world apart if I tried to lay claim to her.
Yeah.
And so she did the only thing that she could do. Well, she could have done that. That's the thing. She could have been selfish, and she could have gotten a lawyer and did DNA and all this, whatever. Which that was another kind of like aspect of it. A DNA test would not prove that was her daughter because she had an egg donor.
Exactly.
So that was, but I feel like they still could have figured it out. With whatever. But to me, that was like the ultimate sacrifice. She was willing to just kind of still be a part of her child's life, but from a distance. But she made that sacrifice for her daughter, so her daughter would just continue to live the life that she had been living, and it seemed to be a happy life. And that's a mother's love.
You have to take into consideration what's best for the child.
Yeah, and she did, and that was like a selfless act of love. I mean, we won't say who, but Cassie finds out who it is, and she finds out the truth about everything. It was a good ending. At
first it seems so discombobulated, but it really did tie together well. So
yes, and again,
she's a talented author.
Yeah. And again, like the Nora storyline, that wasn't necessary per se. That could have been omitted.
Yeah. Could have saved a few pages. But,
because really she didn't, nothing tied together at the end.
No. I'm not really sure what her purpose was, but didn't hate her. But I did feel a little let down at the end when I realized she was just a character that really had no purpose.
And then when it didn't give you any results.
Yeah, it wasn't significant.
You just think, okay, is that going to end up being her real sister, half sister? Like, is there going to be some connection?
That's kind of what I thought was going to happen.
You're waiting for some connection.
Yeah.
I didn't have it.
It was just, she was just there.
Yeah, there's no payout in the end in regard to that storyline.
Now, it would have made sense if she could have been in there as a background, just, occurring character, but her presence was just strong enough that you felt like there was a stronger purpose to her.
It should have been.
Should have been.
Like it was coming in a different.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of odd. But anyway, it didn't ruin the book. It just didn't turn out the way I thought it was.
Yeah. It didn't make sense that it was there. But...
Yeah, so you liked it.
All in all,
so,
like kind of twists and turns. Like she was hidden.
Yes.
And what?
Honestly, all that was what made the book interesting for me.
Yeah.
So
that was definitely a fun twist and turn there.
Yeah.
And where you did get a payout in regard to that. It did come back to her.
Yeah. It kind of circled back around and tied it all together.
And then I was trying to think, well, which one is it? I was thinking it was somebody, and it
wasn't who I thought it was.
Yeah. I was like, oh, it's got to be so and so. I was like, no, it was another one.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't read a book trying to figure out who it is. I like the element of surprise, and so I don't really put too much into try to figure it out. So it's kind of fun when an author can pull that off.
Yeah,
because sometimes the book fizzles a little when you get to the end and you realize that you had it pegged from page 10. Yeah. So if you have not read any of Christina Suzanne Nelson's books, highly recommend it. It's called Shaped by the Waves. So anything else you want to say, Miss Jessica?
No, I think I said it all.
Said it all. Well, I'm so glad you came on. I enjoyed doing this. Listeners, you can check us out wherever podcasts are. Spotify, we're on Pandora, 20 different ones. So chances are if you listen to a podcast platform, we're on it somewhere. We're on YouTube. You can just search Google Bookish Introverts Podcast. If you want to email us and tell us how wonderful Jessica is, you can email us at bookishintrovertspodcast@gmail.com. And we will be back next week with another great episode. So we will talk to you guys later. Bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Bookish Introverts Podcast, where together we explore the worlds within the pages. Until next time, stay bookish.